Hello and welcome to The Essential Reads. My name is Isaac, and my goal is to bring to you a bunch of classic audiobooks in an easy and accessible way. This is a Friday, so we are, of course, continuing with the short story, The Island of Dr Moreau by H.G. Wells. This is a interesting chapter. I'm going to leave it at that. And let us begin. Do all of the things. The Island of Dr Moreau by H.G. Wells. Chapter 18. The Finding of Moreau. When I saw Montgomery swallow a third dose of brandy, I took it upon myself to interfere. He was already more than half fuddled. I told him that some serious thing must have happened to Moreau by this time, or he would have returned before this, and that it behoved us to ascertain what that catastrophe was. Montgomery raised some feeble objections, but at last agreed. We had some food, and then all three of us started. It is possibly due to the tension of my mind at the time, but even now that start into the hot stillness of the tropical afternoon is a singularly vivid impression. Emling went first, his shoulder hunched, his strange black head moving with quick starts as he peered, first on one side of the way, and then on that. He was unarmed. His axe had dropped when he encountered the swine man. Teeth were his weapons when it came to fighting. Montgomery followed, with stumbling footsteps, his hands in his pockets, his face downcast. He was in a state of muddled sullenness with me on account of the brandy. My left arm was in a sling. It was lucky it was my left, and I carried my revolver in my right. Soon we traced a narrow path through the wild luxuriance of the island, going northwestward, and presently Emling stopped and became rigid with watchfulness. Montgomery almost staggered into him, and then stopped too. Then, listening intensely, we heard, coming through the trees, the sound of voices and footsteps approaching us.
"He's dead,"
said a deep, vibrating voice. "He's not dead! He's not dead!" jabbered another. We saw, said several voices.
"Hello!"
Suddenly shouted Montgomery.
Hello there!
"Confound you!" said I, and gripped my pistol. And there was a silence, and then a crashing among the interlacing vegetation. First here, then there, and then half a dozen faces appeared. Strange faces, lit by a strange light. Emling made a growling noise in his throat. I recognized the ape-man. I had indeed already identified his voice. And two of the white-swathed, brown-featured creatures I had seen in Montgomery's boat. With these were two dappled brutes, and that grey, horribly crooked creature who said the law, with his grey hair streaming down its cheeks, heavy grey eyebrows, and grey locks pouring off from a central parting upon its sloping forehead. A heavy, faceless thing, with strange red eyes, looking at us curiously from amid the green. For a space, no one spoke. Then Montgomery hiccuped.
Who? Said he was dead.
The monkey man looked guiltily at the hairy grey thing.
"He is dead,"
said this monster.
"They saw."
There was nothing threatening about this detachment at any rate. They seemed awe-stricken and puzzled.
Where is he?
Said Montgomery,
"Beyond."
and the grey creature pointed.
Is there a law now?
Asked the monkey man.
Is it still to be this and that? Is he dead indeed?
"Is there law?
Repeated the man in white.
Is there law? Thou other with the whip." "He is dead. He is dead,"
said the grey hairy thing, and they all stood, watching us.
Prendick?
Said Montgomery, turning his dull eyes to me.
He's dead, evidently.
I had been standing behind him during this colloquy. I began to see how things lay with them. I suddenly stepped in front of Montgomery and lifted up my voice. Children of the law, I said. He is not dead. Ling turned his sharp eyes on me. He has changed his shape. He has changed his body. I went on. For a time, you will not see him. He is there. I pointed upward, where he can watch you. You cannot see him, but he can see you. Fear the law. I looked at them squarely. They flinched.
He is good. He is good. He is great. He is good,
said the ape man, peering fearfully upward among the dense trees. And the other thing? I demanded.
The thing that bled and ran screaming and sobbing. That is dead too,
said the grey thing, still regarding me.
That's well,
grunted Montgomery.
The other with the whip,
began the grey thing. Well, said I.
Said he was dead.
But Montgomery was still sober enough to understand my motive in denying Moreau's death.
He's not dead,
he said slowly.
Not dead at all. No more dead than I am.
Some, said I, have broken the law, and they will die. Some have died. Show us now where his body lies. The body he cast away because he had no more need of it.
It is this way, man who walked into the sea,
said the grey thing. And with these 6 creatures guiding us, we went through the small tumult of ferns and creepers and tree stems towards the northwest. Then came a yelling, a crashing among the branches, and a little pink homunculus brushed by us, shrieking. Immediately after appeared a feral monster in headlong pursuit, blood-bedabbled, who was among us almost before we could stop his career. The grey thing leapt aside. Ling, with a snarl, flew at it, and was struck aside. Montgomery fired and missed, bowed his head, threw up his arm, and turned to run. I fired, and the thing still came on, fired again, point blank into its ugly face. I saw its features vanish in a flash. Its face was driven in. Yet it passed me, gripped Montgomery, and holding him, fell headlong beside him, and pulled him sprawling upon itself in its death agony. I found myself alone with Ling, the dead brute, and the prostrate man. Montgomery raised himself, slowly, and stared in a muddled way at the shattered beast men beside him. It more than half sobered him. He scrambled to his feet. Then I saw the grey thing returning cautiously through the trees. See, said I, pointing at the dead brute, is the law not alive? This came of breaking the law. He peered at the body.
He sends the fire that kills,
said he, in his deep voice, repeating part of the ritual. The others gathered round and stared for a space. At last, we drew near the westward extremity of the island. We came upon the gnawed and mutilated body of the puma, its shoulder bone smashed by a bullet. Perhaps 20 yards further, found, at last, what we sought. Moreau lay face down in a trampled space of canebrake. One hand was almost severed at the wrist, and his silvery hair was dabbled in blood. His head had been battered in by the fetters of the puma. The broken canes beneath him were smeared with blood. His revolver we could not find. Montgomery turned him over. Resting at intervals, and with the help of 7 beast people, for he was a heavy man, we carried Moreau back to the enclosure. The night was darkling. Twice we heard unseen creatures howling and shrieking past our little band. And once the little pink sloth creature appeared and stared at us, and vanished again. But we were not attacked again. At the gates of the enclosure, our company of beast people left us, Ling going with the rest. We locked ourselves in, and then took Moreau's mangled body into the yard and laid it upon a pile of brushwood. Then we went into the laboratory and put an end to all we found living there. Thank you so very much for listening. If you enjoyed, please like, comment, share, all that jazz. And if you really enjoyed, do subscribe because there is more to come. If you're listening to our podcast, please leave a review as it's the easiest way to get this in front of as many people as possible. And reading your reviews really does make my day. If you want to support me further, you can click here and go to the Patreon, or you can go to the description box, either here on YouTube or on podcast platforms, and go there and support me further by, helping me pay for rent and stuff, allowing me to do this full time, which would be great. Once again, thank you very, very much for listening. And until next time, bye-bye.